Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and on this episode, Shell and I are sitting down with a witch who is one of the founders and elders of the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel. He's a teacher, a queer activist, and an author. Many of you know him as the anchor author for the 12-book Witches' Sun Sign series. And just recently, his book Spirit Speak, a comprehensive guide to connect beyond the veil, was re-released in an expanded version.
And I'm Shell, and today we have Ivo Dominguez Jr., as Layla said, a very prolific pagan founder of many things. Welcome. We are so glad you are here today.
I'm really delighted to be here, honestly. I love talking to people, and this is my favorite thing to do.
I can't help but dive into my very first question, Ivo, and that is, what is it about this new version that I should focus, the readers should focus, the listeners should focus on, that is different and most poignant that you added from the first version that was from 2008?
There's an entire new chapter on plant spirits.
I read that one first.
Layla's favorite.
And honestly, it was a bit of a push to get it into the book, because when they said, hey, we'd like to reissue it and you can tidy it up a little bit. And I said, well, I want to do more than a tidy up. I'd like to add a significant chunk. And I think there's like about 12,000 words more total. And a lot of it is just little changes in each of the chapters. But I had originally wanted that chapter in there in the first version of the book. And the previous publisher was New Page, and they had a cap on this is how many words the book will be, period. And that's true for most publishers. And that was one of the chapters that didn't stay in. So that is like a special thing for me, that it's back in there, something I wish had always been there. Beyond that, I separated the section into a separate chapter on the technique that we use for aspecting, our form of divine embodiment, because I wanted to have that be more standalone. And also I added things to that so that it would be more possible for people to attempt to do it on their own or with some friends working through the book. Because that's the sort of thing that has become less common to be done safely and effectively, because there are fewer organized groups in which people can train relative to the size of the population of people that are interested. So really, that split off chapter and the brand new plant spirit, but there's little nuggets all the way through. And I also did a lot of changing of tenses and pronouns, because when I first submitted that book, so many years ago, I had done it all as they, and the publisher rebelled and said, no, you can't do that, which is why the previous version of the book was a lot of she, and alternating between she and he everywhere. So this one is a little bit more leaning towards neutral, which had been my original hope.
Excellent.
Reading through it, I could tell that it had originally been a Coven primer or a Coven handout.
Oh, yes.
I could see a lot of that in there. And I enjoyed the chapters that you had on working with energy and being able to recognize that in a group or with other people. Is there anything in there that you would recommend to someone in particular that's starting to do that type of work on their own?
Don't skimp on rereading the chapters related to how to deal with things when they go badly. I have a chapter that's primary focuses on what to do if somebody has an adverse or a stronger than usual reaction to things. And that's going to happen sooner or later. But the thing with any kind of emergency, aka emergent situation, is that you're going to do better if you've thought about it when it isn't necessary. It's kind of like trying to flip through a book on first aid when somebody has been injured in front of you, as opposed to digesting some of that information. So when it happens, you can stay cool and calm and focused. So I would say that if you are organizing things, then that's a chapter that needs to be kind of like tucked into the back of your head so that you can pull it out easily should the need arise. Though the single biggest thing that I think I repeat in a couple of different ways in that chapter is you are the person that has to stay calm, cool, centered, grounded, or else you won't be much use. And I hate to say it, but managing the mob is often a problem because there's too many helpers can really ruin the broth when you're trying to help somebody who's having a energetic or spiritual or maybe physical crisis. More than once, I've told people, "Do you know anything about this person's relationship to blood sugar? Because this doesn't look spiritual. This looks like diabetes."
That's actually a really good point right there.
Common thing,
And
right?
you have to kind of be aware of that preparation in the beginning before you get
Or
into
you
the
do.
thick of things. And having that knowledge first is vital because when things do kind of start to get a little bit messy, you want to have solid ground to stand on.
And you also don't want to be second guessing yourself during or later, so that it's good to know that you've done the best that you can.
Shell and I were talking before you came on that we were both kind of laughing because right off the bat, page one, page three of this book, we were like, there's some cool stuff right here. And, we're going to start right at the literal beginning. And it kind of goes along with what you were just saying. One of the very first things that you tell people is that they need to have discernment. You need to know what your biases are, know what your fears are, know what your expectations are before you go into any type of spirit work or
Mhm.
energy work.
Mhm.
And we were laughing a little bit because just recently we had a listener who was asking about how to go about contacting their grandmother. They wanted to work with their mother using a Ouija board. And they wanted to know how to start that, what they should do. And the first thing we said was find out first what your fears, your biases, and what your expectations are.
Right.
List those first. And so we loved that that was like the very first thing that you said here. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Honestly, everything that you might ever learn about how to deal with living human beings is exactly the same things that you need for doing work with the spirits, whether they be human spirits or any other kind of spirits. That active listening stuff or that sense of presence or holding space that you might do for a living person. Yeah, you're going to do that with the dead as well. Or when you meet new people, or if it were, how there's a scam nowadays where people get phone calls from supposed family members that are in trouble somewhere and needing money and yada yada. And
Unfortunately, yeah.
pretty common thing. Well, the spirits do that too.
So they're like scam spirit phone calls. Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to compare it to this very popular phenomena right now because you do have to test the spirits in the same way you would test to make sure that you are actually getting a message from a relative that you're looking for.
And that was my thing right from page three, because I'm like, what do you mean test the spirits? Like, that just seemed like such a foreign
Rude.
concept to me.
Well, some people have told me, doesn't that seem rude? And it's like,
That's what I was thinking.
well, the thing is that if it's actually them, they're not hearing your words. They're seeing your energy. They're feeling the emotional energy the thought energy that you're putting out. So they can tell where you're coming from. And it's like, oh, the poor dear isn't sure whether or not it's me or not. So of course they need reassurance. Of course they need proof. So I would say it's a pretty bad danger sign if something is getting grumpy because you're asking for ID.
Yeah, your great grandma is not going to get mad at you because you're trying to keep yourself safe.
No,
She's going
absolutely
to
not.
understand.
She'll be very, very, very happy that you are taking things seriously and locking your door and looking through the peephole before you open it.
Hmm.
I think at this age, I found it to make complete sense. But 30 years
Oh
ago,
yeah.
I would have been too scared to even fathom the concept. Again, 30 years ago, I was much younger and less knowledgeable.
We also
Now it
lived in a
makes
different
sense
world.
to me.
We also lived in a very different world then.
True, true, very true.
The risks and the potential dangers of a variety of sorts have increased. And honestly, and I would say that the other problem with not getting clear first before trying to reach out is, how about this? I just said that what they hear is not our physical voice. They hear our spiritual voice, they feel our emotions, and so on. Well, that loud, yucky voice that's the primary waking consciousness voice that is listening to this show right now and is asking questions through you right now is not the totality of who you are. You've got different voices and different feelings and different layers within yourself. And all those parts of you are calling out to that spirit. And the one that might be the loudest may not be the conscious speaking voice that you're speaking right now. So that it may be your fears or your anxieties or your wish fulfillment desires or all those other things may be louder, and the spirit will respond to the loudest signal.
Then my next question would be, how would someone who's new to spirit work be able to decipher the difference between spirit and having that connection and conversation
Oh,
with spirit, or am I just making this up in my head? Do I think that I'm
yeah.
hearing? Is this my brain telling me this? Is this real?
Yes. So here's the thing. Even if it's working, it's still your brain and you filling it in because
Mhm.
you are the receiver and you have to translate those frequencies into something understandable to you. However, I like to compare it to this. If you've ever had an animal companion of any kind or have friends that have animals as well, you know how people will often speak for their pet. They'll
Yeah.
say something and then they'll speak for their pet, and it
They
goes
have
back
a
and
whole
forth.
voice and everything.
The whole deal. The whole deal. I think that's exactly what we do when we're first starting out, and even when we're at it for years with the spirits. But here's the funny thing with animals: if you keep doing that for a while, you get closer and closer to speaking what they were actually what the animal actually wants or is feeling, because you learn to hold your head in the right way to tune into what they're feeling, and then your voice is now more their voice. You're actually channeling for them or actually acting like a medium for them, which is why, by the way, if somebody has animal companions and they do that at home, when they drop into somebody else's house, the animals respond to them differently because, oh, they're tuned into me, aren't they? They know an animal person.
Right, right. You're kind of on that same wavelength. And yes, as an animal person, I hear
You got it.
exactly what you're saying because it is almost, I'm going to compare it to reading tarot because you said a little bit as like being a receiver and receiving
Yep.
these messages and letting them. It's similar now that I think about it. When I'm being very receptive to messages that I'm getting when I'm reading
Mhm.
tarot, it is coming through my head. It
It's a
is me.
similar process.
Yeah. And when I hear my pets, particularly my beloved dog who's no longer with us, but I felt like I could hear his thoughts. I
Right?
knew when something was wrong, or you could feel when he's happy, or you can feel when
Yes.
they need something. It's those little tiny shifts of energy, and you really tune into them. I love how you said that. That makes it so
So when
accessible.
you start spirit work, at first, it's going to be mostly a made up conversation. But the more you keep at it, the more you begin to tune in so that the part that you then repeat as their words get closer and closer to actually being, you
Their
know,
words.
their words. So it's a process. It's not a binary. It's not either or. Over time you become better at it, and the more you learn to be aware of who and what you're feeling and what you are in that moment, and get out of your way, the clearer it will become over time. Especially if you work with similar beings or spirits again and again, because you'll be able to get a sense of this is their tone of voice. This is who they are. That's who they are with you. I mean,
Mm.
if we were at, say, a potluck dinner with a bunch of friends, and we all know each other, and we've all talked to each other, but we each have a different impression of who that person is. So when we, even if you're working with gods, goddesses, or ancestors that are known to others, the relationship and the dialogue that you have with them will always be uniquely the kind of dialogue that you have. In the same way, like I said, everything that you know about dealing with other human beings is filled with ways to think about communication with spirits.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, we all code switch. We all are a slightly different
Absolutely.
person at work. We're a slightly
Absolutely.
different person with our friends, a slightly different person with our family. I mean, it's still us, but we're just showing different facets of who we are to these different groups, and spirit does the same thing.
I'm going to say the biggest code switch to follow using that word
Hmm.
is when our dead ancestors choose to show up resembling who they were in life.
Right? Oh, yeah. There, yes. Yeah, because there's so much more there.
That's not who they are anymore.
That's
But
right.
out of kindness or out of a need for making it easier for us to get some clarity, they have to code switch into, oh, wait a minute. When I was there, Aunt Sarah, okay,
They know me in this physical form.
I need to respond. Otherwise, they're going to think I'm just some random spirit talking to them. But that's not them anymore.
you kind of mentioned that too later, because I had a conversation recently with one of my community members about reincarnation and our ancestors. If our ancestors have reincarnated and they're on this plane, how do we speak to them in the spirit realm? And I feel that these are facets of a greater soul. And what's
Absolutely.
your response to that?
So it could a lot of things, but how about two? One, time is a lot weirder than people think.
Oh, I love that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So when we reach out to spirits of the dead, the time frame they're in is radically different than it's not even about linear time and eternity and other kinds of time because there are tons of different flavors of time. But also I mean, sometimes we talk to our dead and we inadvertently bump into them while they're still alive within their time frame.
Hmm.
Sometimes we talk to our dead and they're in the afterlife, whatever that may be, and it's a different kind of time. But here's the other thing about fragments. I don't remember all the things I've put in my books or which one, but one of the comparisons I like to give to human souls, and this applies to animals as well. So, have you ever grown daffodils?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and if you plant regular hardy daffodils, if you plant like three or four and come back, 10 years later, there's like a lot of them. They
Hmm.
they split, they spread, they split, they spread, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that daffodil bulb deep in the dark of the other world, and then every year it sends up leaves, a shoot, and then a flower, and then it shrivels back down. We have just seen the entire human life cycle. It that comes up into the light, it grows, it flourishes, it goes back down. And that bulb is spirit that is outside of time and space. And every incarnation, the bulb gets a little bit bigger and a little bit plumper, and it takes drains down into it the memory of all the things. And even though it's the same daffodil every year, the leaves look slightly different, the flower looks slightly different because the weather's different, the world's different, yada yada. But when the bulb gets too big, it splits, and now there's two plants coming up, but they're still from the same source. So I think that over time, the thing that we think of as individuated soul goes back into that bulb, and that bulb keeps splitting and making more.
I
That's a,
love that
But
analogy.
they're still connected.
yeah, it's still there.
They're still there. They're still ultimately from the same source. They're just choosing to split and individuate.
I love that. And you, even as you're enjoying those daffodils that are here right now, you can still speak to the
In the
bulb.
ground, the bulb is still
Yeah,
there, holding everything that was in that place that's the outside of our normal time.
that's beautiful. It's funny because when we talk, Shell and I do a ritual where we walk a spiral. Actually, at Sacred Space, we did the
Yeah,
spiral ritual,
yep,
and we
yep.
talk about time that way. Sometimes you'll see
Yes.
fragments of yourself somewhere on that curve, above you, below you, ahead of you, behind you, and different ancestors and spirits. And sometimes you'll cross paths with them, but those spirals connect in weird and interesting ways. And I like thinking of time that way. It's very strange.
Time's a complicated thing.
Wibbly wobbly.
Timey-wimey.
All
To make
right.
the proper Doctor Who reference.
That's right. So reincarnation and plants. So actually, daffodils is a great way to get me right back to my favorite chapter, the plant spirits. Now, a lot of our listeners know that I am a cannabis activist. I do like to work with that plant.
Yep, yep.
But particularly, one of the things very close to my heart is the goddess of that plant. When I first started growing cannabis a long time ago, that's when I became an animist because
Mhm.
I could see the life in that
Life
plant.
force,
I could
the
see
plant
the
spirit.
spirit. Yeah. And the connection to the world and to growing things was so easy with that plant, with the
Mhm.
spirit of that plant. And it really helped me to, I mean, growing up, I was very much a woods child. I could see the spirits in the woods. I'd play in the bushes and the little lights in the trees and I
Mhm.
felt very at home there, but growing things really helped me to connect to the earth as a living thing, to plants as a connection between this world and the next. And I love how you connected that daffodil to the spirit world because I think plants, you even mention it in the book that
Mhm.
plants are a bridge
They
between
are.
all these different worlds. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think that all right, I'm summarizing from the whole thing. Let's hit the idea of the four elements, which a lot of magical folks work with in
Hmm.
some fashion or another. So we've got that idea. Okay, four elements, and we've got the idea of there being a life force, right?
Hmm.
And then elemental forces and things that are some people think that crystals have a sense of consciousness and beingness as well, right?
I do, raising my hand.
All
I
right.
do.
Plants cross every boundary. They are connected to the mineral powers. They're connected to the elemental powers. They're connected to the forces that we can think of as prana or pure life force, so that they bridge across the different kingdoms or the different realms of life, if you will.
Mm.
So if you're an animist and you believe that everything has life and or spirit and all the above, then plants are the connecting tissue between all those things, because those are different layers or different planes of consciousness for different kinds of life. Here's the other thing. From a purely symbolic and physical perspective, they are the only thing that has the power that can consistently convert the four elements of, the fire, of the light, the water, the soil, and the air into that which feeds every single other thing on the planet.
You just blew my mind.
I mean, in some ways, I remember when I've been a vegetarian for a very long time. I have no problem with other people eating meat. The reason I became a vegetarian like 45-ish years ago was mostly about using fewer electricity, water, fossil fuel, blah, blah, blah. It was
Good reason.
it was an ecological reason. Though I found out that also my allergies got better if I avoided meat. So there were lots of pluses, and another plus decades later from it as well. But people would go like, well, you're not morally higher up the chain because you're a vegetarian, blah, blah. And so I'm not making that claim. That's not the reason I'm a vegetarian. And I said, if anything, I should feel slightly guiltier, because in some ways plants represent a higher order of spiritual evolution in the way that they exist in the world than I do.
Oh no, now you're going to give me an existential crisis.
But think about it. I mean, think about
I am actually feeling you're having your existential crisis, and I am feeling on top of the world because
it.
I am turning it around. No, Evo plants used to come to me to die, and I have turned it around. I don't know if it was that plant Layla got me for my 50th birthday or what, but I've had a streak now for a little over a year that I have kept these things alive, and I
That's
am
awesome.
proud of
That's awesome.
myself because it's actually a huge feat for me.
It is.
That is amazing.
I think it's because I've talked to them.
And here's the thing. When we talk to them, because they don't have language like we do. They have their own kind of consciousness, yada yada, all that kind of stuff. However, when we reach out to try to talk to plants, we show up on their radar. We show up in their senses. Our energy does reach them, and then they go, "I'm going to follow that back." So that it creates because they're always connecting, whether it's reaching upwards into the sky or downwards into the earth, or horizontally, or catching whatever messages are on the wind. But the point is, when we send out our energy, it makes it easier for them to become aware of our existence in their environment.
Love that.
Then it's possible for them to talk back.
And I think that learning to connect with that spirit of place is so important, and the spirits of the
Oh,
world
yes.
are so important. And I think that by going to wherever you happen to live, going out and trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
connect with those plants, even if it's just looking at the plants in your area, they'll start to speak to you, like you were talking
Well,
about with the animals earlier. If you
mhm.
start listening, they can speak to you, and you can really start to connect to the energies in your area. I think particularly through watching things grow and die as the seasons change.
I think that would apply
Yeah.
also though to house plants as well.
Oh,
So even if it's
absolutely.
not a going out, bringing it in.
I think actually houseplants are a really good starting point for a lot of people,
Hmm.
because people spend most of their time indoors.
It's true. And not everybody has the ability to go outside to land. A lot of us
Correct.
live in cities or,
Right.
urban areas that just don't have that.
So houseplants are great. I will say that for anybody that does magic of any sort, or healing work of any sort, hey, the biggest source of biomass on the planet is plants. So the largest percentage of life force in the world around us is coming from the plants. So that every time that you tap into the universe and try to draw energy to do magic or do healing, a goodly chunk of that energy that you're calling, even if you're not thinking about plants, it's plants.
And how often, when we're doing a grounding ritual or we're talking about drawing
Where we
energy in,
intentionally,
we
right?
think of a tree, right? It's
Right,
the
right.
branches, or a plant, it's the roots. And it's such a common
Very
analogy in a
common.
meditation.
But even if you're not, just know that the plants are responsible for a goodly portion of the power that you're able to access.
That's amazing. And they do studies with plants where they can
Oh yeah.
respond to your voice, respond to music, and grow in different ways. And again, even just myself with my own personal, I have a lot of house plants. It's not anything special to say that I can grow them because I just grow them. Whereas Shell, she has a little bit more trouble. But this past year or so, I would say that she has started to work with plants a little bit differently. I think sometimes we get to a
Mhm.
point in our practice where we see things with new eyes and we can learn something new in our practice. In that vein, you added some new things to the book. How about yourself? Is there anything new that you're learning in your life or in your practice right now? Is there anything new that you're starting?
You're asking a question on an interesting year
Oh,
because I have a practice that years that end with zeros or fives, basically every 5 years, is a year that I intentionally try to expose myself to music, art, practices, different cultures. Every 5 years, I make an intensive effort to do that to reconnect with the world so that I don't fall out of sync with the world.
I
I
love
think I might
that.
steal that.
Hey, December 9th is my birthday. So, like a month from now, basically, I'll be 67. Yay.
Happy early birthday.
But it's really easy it's easy enough to be in a bubble in terms of the information we receive, but it's really easy to fall out of sync with whichever directions the world is going in, unless every couple of years, like every five seemed reasonable, you make an intensive dive into other stuff.
Love that.
Was there anything in particular that stuck out to you?
So this particular year, because I met a young person who is very much into Mayan mythology, and that had never been anything that drew my attention. I am intentionally reading his blog, and I am paying attention to my other friends that follow that particular path. So now I have. It's not that I have any intention of making that part of my daily practice or learning enough to make it worthy for me to consider it valuable to
But
work with.
expanding your knowledge.
Expanding my knowledge is a big deal. And the other bit is that any day now we will notice five new flavors of witchcraft or magic that somebody else has come up with, right?
It's true.
And to avoid a very human built, I think it's a built-in flaw, feature, and bug all at the same time, is I struggle to, I will not roll my eyes until I've listened to it.
That's actually, especially as we get older, that's really good advice.
It is. And more importantly, I didn't know that I would enjoy jazz, banjo, bluegrass music. But that's one of the things that this year I discovered. The last time that we were in the zeros, I discovered the strangeness of a band called Electric Callboy.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Have you ever listened to Hypnotic Clam Bake?
Yes, yes,
Okay, there you
yes.
go.
So the thing is that I try to expose myself, but I have to make more of an effort to do those kinds of cultural things because of who I am and how long I've been around. I am constantly having people shove books under my nose and say, "Please read this and tell me what you think."
Right.
Or can you, or email me, "Hey, can you write a blurb for this book I'm writing?" So I've got lots of that kind of stuff coming through all the time. But one of the things about being a magical person is that you need to have a wide range of interests because, well, I think several times in the course of Spirit Speak, I'll kind of like poke and say that, really you need to learn a little bit about everything in one way or another.
I agree.
And you should, and you should.
And you should journal about it too.
Yes.
Jeez.
Or paint, or I know people that do different ways of expressing those things. And many years ago, one of the people that I consider one of my primary teachers, Dolores Ashcroft Nowicki, she was teaching a class at our place, and somebody asked her, "Well, what should I study? Because I want to understand time better." Since we were talking about timey-wimey stuff,
Mhm.
and she said, "Take a geology course." And
Ooh.
their eyes got a little bit weird. And if you can't afford to take a course, you can take books out of the library, and there's ways to learn, right?
Mhm.
And they ask, "Well, why?" It's like, because you have to break your habit of thinking of time like a human. It's all very short and quick for humans. If you can't think in terms of geologic time, then you're not thinking the way the universe does.
Wow.
I
Wow,
like
that's like
that.
literally deep.
It is.
That's
It is. So one of for years, almost every day, ever since the internet happened, and before that, I had magazines arriving in the mailbox. Every day, I start with visiting a science website, usually Science Daily, but some others as well. and I'll randomly pick, or Wired is the other one I read. I'll randomly pick a couple of articles and read them and go, huh.
Oh, that's right. You were in IT for a while. That's
I
where the
was,
Wired
I
came from.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had email in the 70s, if that puts it in perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I
That's when computers were like big,
Big.
like room
no,
sized.
I go back to the era of carrying boxes of punch cards. So
Yeah.
good grief. But the point is, I get a lot of exposure to magical ideas, and but the ones that are less common, I have to go hunting down, like the Mayan stuff. But in general, most of the things that inspire me are the things that didn't come out of the magical community. Because how about this? It's like a balanced diet. I'm already getting that particular food group.
You need to get your other food
I
groups. You
need
need
the
to
other
get the
food group.
music, the theater, the
Yes,
arts.
yes, and that's the only way to remain fully inspired. And also, it is easier to avoid getting trapped in your own dogma or somebody else's dogma if you are constantly experiencing the flux of things.
I like that.
Because then change becomes kind of like, well, that's kind of normal, and it's kind of like, well, a friend of mine was like, she was mopey that this is so important to me, and it looks like these practices are dying out in our magical community. And I said, wait 20 years, they'll be back.
They'll be back. Yeah.
Wait 20
If
years.
it's important to you, you should keep practicing it. And you touched on something, Evo, that
Yeah.
I really enjoy is trying new things also involves not being afraid to fail and
Oh
not
yeah.
being
Right,
afraid to not be good at it.
Oh
right.
yeah.
I think a lot of people, magically and otherwise, they might be afraid to try a new practice or to learn about something new because
Because they think they have to do it perfect the first time. How do you avoid that? How do you avoid that feeling of perfectionism the first go round?
Well, first, I like to call it the tyranny of excellence, which is that if you can't do it well enough to win an award or make your living off of it, then it's probably not worth doing, which means nobody ever does anything. And honestly, this is an artifact of paid entertainment, mass media. If we were in a different part of the world, if we were in a different part in time, every little village, every little cluster of people would have a couple of folks that had just enough musical talent to play for their village and keep people entertained, or were good enough as a storyteller to keep people entertained, or the village felt happy to get together and sing, and they didn't have to sound great. It was good and it was enough. I don't need to have, the oh, do you know who Dimash Kudaibergen is?
No.
I will drop you a note because it's hard to parse what I just said. So Dimash Kudaibergen, one of the people I discovered in on one of these jaunts, is a young man who's a singer from Kazakhstan, and probably has currently the world's most miraculous voice on the planet in terms of range and control and breath work and the whole deal. I don't like all of the music he does, but I'm always remarkably impressed by an example of this is a human being making this happen.
Yeah, that can be amazing when you see it.
It's like, oh, whoa. But anyway, we don't have to be a freak of nature. How about this?
Right.
You know the song from Fifth Element, the diva dance song.
Yes, I love that. It's beautiful.
He can sing the whole thing by himself, even the
Like
parts that
for
were,
real?
yeah, for real, like even the parts that were computer generated.
Okay, I'm looking him up. Please do drop me a note with how
I'll
to
drop you a
spell
note.
his name because that's wow.
Yeah. And then we have the next thing that it's worse than, I'm actually going to say, Sheldon, it's worse than deciding that you shouldn't do it at all if you can't be excellent at it.
Uh-huh.
It's even worse at that.
What's that?
I will make this excellent by putting it into an AI, and it won't be me, but it will be me.
Oh Lord,
Oh,
no.
No,
yeah.
no,
Oh
no.
no.
You know what I'm saying, and I believe me, I love technology's appropriate uses, but there is a sort of weird disempowerment that occurs when
Yes.
people decide that the only way that their voice is going to sound all right is if they process it through this AI, or the only way that their words are going to be good enough to be an invocation to share at their next ritual is by getting Chat GPT to help write them their invocation.
Right. And that's not the case.
It's not the case for a lot of reasons. If you were writing stupid form letters for your corporate job,
That's
go go
Go
fine. It
for it.
doesn't need
Go
a
go
for
for
it.
soul.
it. Go for it. Go for it. It's not that much different than just using boilerplate letters and just changing. But you deprive yourself of the fire of creativity and the transformation that comes from it. And also, the reason people benefit spiritually from singing or painting or sculpting or gardening or coming up with new recipes for cooking or incense or whatever is it is a different kind of exercise to refine who you are as an individual and as a spirit working in the physical world. So yes, we're tool users. There's nothing wrong with using tools, and there are tools that result in you being less and diminished rather than engaged and grown.
Yeah, and take me for example. I am very often will say, especially if I'm trying to teach a chant to someone, I can't sing. I can sing, I don't sing well, but that's
Right.
okay. I sing very enthusiastically now. I didn't used to. And the reason
Mhm.
for that is because it's very easy to get intimidated by people like the singer that you just mentioned.
Oh
And
yeah.
and we go to some of these circles and you hear people singing harmonies and these beautiful compliments to things. And here's me, I can chant in the key of dirge, and that's about as good as it gets.
But you mean it.
Right? And so I used to fake it. I used to sometimes not sing. I might move my mouth or I wouldn't sing. And it feels different. And so I liken that to if I'm just going through the motions or if
And
I'm
what's
using,
it all matter at that point?
yeah, where is the energy coming from? It's not, it was there a little bit, but once I finally wasn't afraid to fail and wasn't afraid to do it enthusiastically but badly, I felt the energy better and it was so beautiful. And now I'm more excited to get into these chants and try to do it well, but do it, even though it's not great, because it feels better. It feels good. I'm part of the energy. I'm part of the magic. Whereas if I just offloaded it to a tool or just moving my mouth, it's not the same.
Not the same.
It doesn't have your spirit in it.
No. And the spirits know that it's not.
Right. And the spirits don't care. I can't hold a tune.
Spirits don't care about that at all. They can't even hear it.
Right. They feel the energy.
Which means that when you are in it sincerely, whatever it may be, whether it's a song or an invocation or just a longing reaching to make connection with a particular kind of spirit, whether it's a god, a goddess, a nature spirit, a spirit of place, an ancestor, whatever, what they're feeling is what you are putting out. So that if you don't feel that you are worthy and competent and that your best is enough, then it doesn't reach their ears the same way.
Beautiful way to say it. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to a little bit what we were saying earlier is that to reach out to them and to speak to them, and they will hear what you're really asking. They will hear what's that underlying question or that underlying yearning. They'll
Yes.
hear that, even if your conscious mind is cluttered with other things.
Even if it's all monkeys on tricycles,
That's right.
they'll still manage to parse what you're actually looking for.
That's so true. Now, bringing it back to tarot, sometimes that happens in tarot
Oh
too, when you're
yeah,
doing a reading
Yeah.
for someone. The
yeah.
question they don't ask sometimes gets
More
answered.
important.
Yeah.
Where's the really important one?
Yeah, the one that they should be asking that they're not.
Yeah, one of the things that also is there's no reason, and people have told me, aren't they going to think you're being rude? And it's like, no, they won't. So people have asked me about, well, I want to practice being able to connect with and either as a medium or a channeler or do divine embodiment and whatever, but I don't want to bother the gods and goddesses, because it's just a practice run, and it's like, and that makes it what? Lesser? No.
No, it does not.
And actually, I think that they would be delighted that you're trying to get better at it. And the other bit is that, well, I don't want to bother them. It's like, uh-huh. And are you underestimating their bandwidth compared to yours?
Oh, that's a good point.
It's quite a matter if you're calling up a friend or somebody that you take classes from, and they've got a life, they've got family and work and all the things, and now it's their job to let you know, hey, I'm really busy until tomorrow night, or
Mm,
they have to do their own gatekeeping, right, and their own keeping of clean boundaries.
that's
But
right.
if you're talking about huge, expansive, out of time and space beings, I'm pretty sure they have time to
Go do a run through.
they can be doing a million run throughs at the same time that they're composing music. I don't know.
Yeah, they can talk to all of us at the same time. It's much bigger, and that's interesting because the concept of spirits, the concept of time, the concept of the earth and plant spirits, all of this is bigger than we sometimes
Way, way.
comprehend.
I sometimes get in trouble with people when I tell them that every god or goddess or divine being, a deity, whatever word you like best, that has ever been encountered by a human being that we've ever worked with and still have a name for or any idea for, they're only locals.
That's an interesting concept to
Ah.
to think of them
From
as.
my perspective, because we're one tiny little solar system, midway through one spiral arm of one medium-sized spiral galaxy, and you know what? I
They
mean,
really are the locals.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the same way we talked about daffodils and how human spirits and lives can be scattered and connected in different ways. But the ones that we are working with are the ones that have bothered to pay attention to and focus on what's happened around this small yellow star in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So they're locals. So when they say, what about the spirit that's the whole spiral arm? Let's think of spirits of place. The spirit that's the whole spiral arm, the spirit that's the whole galaxy, the spirit that's the cluster of local galaxies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're taking that daffodil analogy and expanding it to the whole universe.
And spirit of place.
So the earth is that daffodil in the universe, and
Tiny
it's
little, yeah,
so much.
absolutely. So, but there's nothing wrong with that. But even then, it's in some ways accepting how vast space and time and the other realms are. It can either make you feel like you suddenly became bigger, or it can make you feel much smaller.
It can be very scary to face the cosmos like that.
It's
Yeah.
a little it's a little Alice in Wonderland, in terms of one makes you big and one makes you small.
Maybe it depends on how you look at it too, or what mood you're in that day.
What mood you're in that day, which current happy thing or sad thing just happened, whether or not you're feeling confident, whether or not you're feeling less than or whatever. But what I can say is just the fact that you can connect with any beings should be enough of a miracle.
Just that we can connect with each other, I think.
Is a miracle.
Is. Oh, wow.
Now, Ivo,
Yeah.
before we let you go, because we
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to take up too much of your time and we appreciate every minute with you, I want to switch gears for a minute.
Sure.
This episode will go out before the end of November, and right now you are one of those folks that are considered an authority on some things astrology.
That is true. That is
So I actually happen to own the Gemini and the Libra books. Love them.
yay.
I know Layla owns her Aquarius book. I think what I need to know at the moment is how are we going to get through what I have heard as the messiest Mercury retrograde of the year. Can you guide us on maybe some tips and tricks to survive the month of
I
November?
will. I will. And then I'm going to give you a heads up for next year stuff.
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Okay.
Just because. So for most people, besides, okay, don't be stupid.
Good advice.
During Mercury retrograde, you are more careful.
Mm.
It's you use the carpenter's adage of measure twice, cut once, right? You double check things. You double check the emails. You actually file things away. So part of it is you don't install. Hey, let's upgrade all the operating systems on all the computers at my office.
Bad idea. Talk them out of that, Ivo.
Talk them out of it, or at least back up all your stuff the night before they do it. So part of it is just being cautious. But here's the other thing: let's lean into the parts that are going to be good.
Mm.
So it is going to be an especially intense Mercury retrograde. However, here are things that work better during Mercury retrograde. Counseling sessions work better during Mercury retrograde because your defenses don't work as well.
Oh, talk about using it to your advantage.
Seriously, past life work works better during Mercury retrograde. Certain kinds of spirit work better during Mercury retrograde because Mercury is playing loose with the rules. Now, the other thing you can do is whoever works in your system of belief, whether that's Mercury, whether that's Hermes, whoever is the being that you associate with communication, with travel, with commerce, or whatever, set up a little altar for them and start giving them offerings during this entire time period.
Every
I,
minute of every day.
I actually have a Mercury. Do you know what I mean by a Mercury dime?
Yeah, they have the symbol of
A
the.
little silver dime.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a little Mercury dime in a pouch that's orange cloth because orange is one of the Mercury colors, and a piece of star anise and a few other things in it. And basically, I ask for Mercury's guidance and help, and to be kind and gentle during this time period.
Evo,
Yes,
did you just say we should kiss up to Mercury? Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay. Now I
Or
want to make sure I
Hermes,
heard that right.
or Hermes, or if you work in a different system where there's another comparable being that represents travel and communication and commerce and stuff.
Kiss their butts. That's what you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, so you don't want them to forget you're there.
Okay. Well, we
Now,
don't.
no, you don't. You actually
Okay.
want that. You actually want them to pay attention to you. Oh, they're faithful and loyal. I will
Ah,
shield them during this time.
my favorite butt kisser.
That's why I liked you said lean into some of the things you can work with because I think there's
Absolutely.
so much negativity around Mercury retrograde.
Editing works better. If you want to look at a manuscript and see it with fresh eyes, man, read it during Mercury retrograde. If
So if
you
I
are
edit all those episodes that I've been sitting on, it'll go easier. Is that what you're saying?
the technical parts, you have to double, triple check, but the
Okay.
content you'll get a better insight on.
Oh,
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But when Mercury retrograde ends on the 29th, that whole day, you could also include the day before or after, but mostly the 29th and maybe the 30th. So have you ever used one of those boards where you have the old style brown paper and the big magic markers when
oh
you're
yeah.
well, have you ever noticed how the paper is very porous because it's low quality? And when you're moving a marker across, if you stop to answer a question and hold still too long, this ink will spread and it'll form this big blob around where you paused.
It
Hmm.
bleeds 9 pages deep.
So when Mercury goes retrograde, either to go retrograde or stations to go direct, it's like the magic marker that is Mercury is slowed down, and even more Mercury energy seeps into the canvas of life. So that if you want to charge an amulet on the 29th and 30th to store up Mercury energy that you can use as your life support the next time it's Mercury retrograde,
That's so smart. That's such a
That's a
good
good idea.
idea. Why didn't I think of that?
because you actually have a concentrated dollop of that energy every time it stations either to go to direct or go retrograde.
Now, see,
Ooh.
my own biases about Mercury retrograde prevented me from ever even seeing the
Thinking
wisdom of
about
that. It's such a good idea. I love that.
so the only thing I'll say is that next year is a once in several eons year for astrology.
Is that good or bad?
Yes,
Okay. Thank
it's
you for
about
that
you.
clarification.
No, it really is about you. So if you take away just one thing, February, middle of February, like 21st, 22nd, 23rd, because outer planets move slow. So Saturn and Neptune, which represent totally opposite energies, form, structure, linear time, expansion, the higher levels of reality, all those kind of things are going to be conjunct. Two opposite things being forced to be in conjunct. And they will be conjunct at the 0 degrees of Aries, the first degree of Aries. Now, in astrology, the wheel of the zodiac is actually the creation myth of the universe, and it's told in a different way. 0 degrees Aries is the Big Bang, the first breath, the fiat lux, the beginning of the myth, so that they're conjuncting at the spot that is the beginning of the new cycle. As far as I can tell, it's been more than 6,000 years since the last time that conjunction took place at the 0 degrees of Aries. It's been in Aries plenty of times since, but it's been thousands of years since that's happened. So we are going to be at the beginning of time again,
Wow.
which means it's kind of like entering the dream time, entering mythic time. So that the beginning of that moment of time means that the things you do there, each of us individually, is putting into motion a whole new cycle in a truly different world.
So we are in the ending right now and moving towards that beginning.
And then middle of July of next year, all outer planets will be in aspect to each other at once. And so that will be like the continuation of whatever started in February. So
Gotcha.
there's other stuff going on because astrologers can keep going forever. and I'm trying to keep in English as opposed to astrologies.
Thank you, because I'm a very new, very little
And the
astrologies.
thing is, unfortunately, a lot of astrology is written by astrologers for astrologers rather than trying to make it understandable. But just the idea is like, oh, we're having the things that represent opposites joining together at the place that is the beginning of a new mythic cycle. Okay, that's a big deal. And what happens? Well, that depends on what each of us does individually and each of us does within the collections of people that we have connection to. And then in July, with all the outer planets in connection to each other, it's like, okay, what do you want to pull out of? And it's kind of like Pandora's box, but I always remind people the last thing in the box was hope. And that's the thing that we have to pull out of the box.
Have you ever seen The Dark Crystal, Ivo?
Yes, absolutely. And indeed, actually, when I first watched it, I had to like not bother the people that were in the movie theater sitting next to me because the first thing I noticed was that the Dark Crystal is actually a Kabbalistic allegory.
Oh,
There are 10 mystics and 10 skeksis, which represent the 10 spheres, and that representing the positive and the negative expression of each. And the whole thing begins when the mystic that is Keter dies, and then kicks off the whole story. And anyway,
the reason I brought it up, Ivo, is because as
grand
you were talking, yes, as you were talking about this, all I could see was Ogra and the universe. And she says, it's the end or the beginning. You know, it's one or the other.
one or the other.
Could be both. Maybe it is both.
I'm so watching that this weekend.
I've rewatched it quite a number of times. It holds up well.
It's a good one. But the conjunctions that are coming, and I did not know that Mercury retrograde. I mean, I knew because I have had a day, but Shell told me that Mercury.
And I'm like, no wonder you had a day.
There's a file I had to re-upload twice to a group that I'm part of, where I created the folder for all the documents that were going to go in there. Uploaded the first one, went back to check. It's not there.
Wasn't there.
Did it again. It's not there. Third time it materialized, and other people could see it. So it's like, okay, you just wanted to just test my perseverance.
There you go. Maybe that Mercury energy just needed to build. You had to build it and finally release.
Had to rev up.
Rev it up. All right. Well, I think we're all going to take your advice and look for the good things in Mercury retrograde.
You can make use of it.
Find the hope. Lean into it.
Yep.
I'm so scared.
It's going to be biggie.
Quickly before we do a closing, I just wanted to say that, we're involved in a couple, outside groups of people who are trying to send energy to the world, trying to affect change that we would like to see in the world. And I think that I just want to put out there that for all of you that are doing that, for all of you that are working towards a better place, a better world, now it sounds like from what you're saying, Ivo, how we are, where we're putting our energy in February is going to be extremely important. That's going to kind of determine the direction. So all of you put the energy towards those good things, towards that change you want to see in the world, particularly moving towards February and as these things are happening, because I know they talk about the age of Aquarius. We're ending one age and beginning another. There's a lot of big things afoot.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us, Ivo, and thank you for all of your wisdom and your words. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed every minute with you tonight.
Oh.
Now, is there anything that you have coming up or any place where people can find you?
Honestly, I just suggest people go to my website, ivodominguezjr.com. You can see where I'm teaching next, and also there's a link there to paganchants.com. I've recreated my old chant website that has lyrics and audio files for people to listen to.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Our enthusiastic dirge chanters welcome.
And it's free content.
Yay! We will put links to all of that in the show notes for people. So again, thank you, Ivo, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
It was fun.
And of course, a big thank you to all of you listening to this episode. We will see you next week when we return to our 7-part deity series. And in the meantime, be wise, be wicked, and keep it witchy.